Hello, I'm back at the Hypnosis Geek YouTube channel after a short break while I've been running the UK Hypnosis Convention and some other things. It was a conversation I had there that stimulated this video. Our keynote speaker, Anthony Jacquin, mentioned the notion that many people in the hypnotherapy field belonged to tribes, and that tribalism may be considered a lack of free thinking, according to me. Defending a stance and not shifting from it is a lack of free thinking, for example. All of us in these fields have heard about the notion of being a free thinker, but how many of us are actually free thinkers, you know? A favourite quote of mine from Leo Tolstoy states, "Free thinkers are those who are willing to use their minds without prejudice and without fearing to understand things that clash with their own customs, privileges, or beliefs. This state of mind is not common, but it is essential for right thinking." I rather love that. Free thinking is a purely philosophical way of questioning until one finds the kind of pillars of our own assumptions and ideas. And an obvious example is, you know, why do some people assume God exists? Why do some so-called truths have authority? What is the basis of any authority, you know? When can we say that we have, you know, arrived at knowledge? It's healthy skepticism in essence. And at some point, you know, you might not be able to dig deeper and yet be uncertain whether you found a fundamental axiom, you know, an undeniable truth. And this means that the basis of what we often refer to as our knowledge is often quite shaky. One of the greatest hurdles in free thinking is intrinsic latent human desire for public approval, conformity. It's always there, kind of whispering in your ears that you need more people to agree with you. And if that's not the case, you're somehow wrong. And it requires a very conscious effort to kind of do away with that, since, you know, we inherit a bunch of those genes from our ancestors that helped them survive in the wild because of their conformity in the human tribe and so on. So, you know, it's understandable that there's tribalism out there. Successful people come from all walks of life, yet typically they do have something in common, and that is, you know, where others see sort of impenetrable barriers, they see challenges to embrace and obstacles to overcome. And they don't see the obstacles as blockages. Instead, they think that this is the path. You know, this perspective can often help to think differently to other people. And, you know, which is important, because if you think like everyone else, no matter how smart or experienced you are, you'll hit the same ceiling. By thinking freely and sometimes going against the grain, you can rise above your limitations. I recently watched a Netflix documentary series about Bill Gates, where this is demonstrated, you know, it's illustrated impeccably with the way in which he thinks. Too often we attribute free thinking to natural, innate characteristics that belong only to some individuals or lucky people. The truth is that you can learn from different characteristics of a free thinker and incorporate that approach into your own repertoire. Robert Greene Ingersoll once said, "A believer is a bird in a cage. A free thinker is an eagle parting the clouds with tireless wing." So always ask questions, you know. A friend of mine, Gary Turner, he starts most of his presentations stating this, you know. He asks people to correct him wherever possible and ask questions. Free thinking, you know, it's very closely related to skepticism that I speak of often and that I champion here on this channel and within my college, you know, my trainings in general. Most people go through life just accepting what they hear and what they're taught. And this applies to theists and non-theists alike. You know, free thinkers are skeptical people and they don't follow any specific dogma or ideology. They're interested in the answers themselves. Free thinkers use their imaginations as well as critical thinking skills to understand and learn. Don't accept someone's opinion without giving it thought and doing your own research. Ask yourself questions and do research, you know. Free thinkers don't have boundaries. There are no questions necessarily that are off limits. So also read books, you know, actually read. I hear so many hypnotherapists tell me that they prefer other forms of learning, you know. I prefer being in the classroom, learning stuff practically. It's essential to read, to help you think more effectively. Free thinkers often know more than others do because they're constantly attempting to learn. They're constantly growing. They fill spare moments with self-education. And they don't do it because it's the right thing to do necessarily, but because it's their passion and their drive. They're looking for opportunities to improve and new things to learn about themselves and the world around them. Instead of succumbing to any kind of fear of looking stupid, they're asking questions and the questions that are on their mind. They'd rather learn something new than appear smart. So, you know, fill your mind with well thought out and complex ideas, not just sound bites. Read as much as you can and as varied as possible, you know. Books pertaining to different stances, written by authors from different types of backgrounds and those you were originally taught, you know, from different countries, from different eras in the hypnosis history, you know. Examine media that doesn't just confirm your beliefs, you know, newspapers, magazines that cover diverse subjects, culture, science, technology, that all kind of feeds into our hypnotherapy knowledge. And then expose yourself to new people, new places even. There's no easier way to learn to think freely than spending time with people whose strengths are your weaknesses or whose ideas are radically different from your own. This exposure, you know, it sparks new ideas and gets you well-rounded. It's why something like the UK Hypnosis Convention I was speaking about earlier is so great. You get to do this very thing intensively. And then keep an open mind. You know, exposing yourself to a variety of different people and ideas, you know, unless it's something, you know, you don't want to be sort of just comforting yourself with your own opinions. Free thinkers recognize that every perspective provides an opportunity for growth. You need to practice empathy by putting yourself in other people's shoes so that you can understand how that perspective makes sense, perhaps. But be curious about things that perhaps you may have despised or rubbed up the wrong way, you know, and look at every angle of subjects and then determine if you agree or not. And you know, I strongly recommend making friends with people whom you disagree with. According to researchers at Stanford, you know, who designed the famous marshmallow test that I've spoken about, written about often, free thinkers, that they tend to show a better impulse control than others. Having a strong impulse control allows them to think before they react. It serves as a kind of buffer between stimulus and response by creating space between the two. Free thinkers understand that friends who agree with them on everything add no value to their growth. You know, that they also feel comfortable disagreeing with others. So break out of the tribes every now and then. You don't have to leave them altogether, but you can break away from them. Seek fresh pastures every now and then too. You know, the truth is there's nothing wrong with having and sharing your own opinions. Find friends and colleagues that you can discuss your thoughts with and not feel judged or belittled. If you have one group or 2 or 3 friends, for example, you can keep those. You can concentrate on meeting new people as well from different tribes and building other, you know, relationships with different circles in the hypnotherapy world. And take your mental breaks, you know, on a daily basis. If you don't permit your time, you know, to make some connections with all the thoughts, conversations and ideas you've had throughout that day, you may experience a kind of creativity drought that prohibits you from creating new solutions or having new ideas in your work and life. You know, stop watching television for a bit, unplug from social media. Instead, get involved in some different activities that may stimulate free thinking. You know, cold showers, walking your dog, exercising, folding your laundry, you know, doing the ironing, some mindless activities that allow your brain to avoid distractions. And kind of, you know, start getting creative. The more you start recognizing the importance of free thinking, I think the more successful you'll be and the better you'll develop as a hypnotherapist. That's it. There'll be more next week. Do subscribe to this channel. Do go visit my college website for information on the classroom and online courses. It's good to be back. Until next time, goodbye.